Hello, today I want to go over our Ozone Water System's CBA oxygen monitor. This samples the oxygen from oxygen concentrator or bottled oxygen as it's feeding an ozone generator, and it gives us oxygen concentration as well as a sample flow. Now this isn't full flow through the unit, this is just the sample flow for the oxygen sample. And you can adjust that set point and the oxygen set point as well from the unit, and I'll show you that in a minute. But essentially, you've got your oxygen coming in from your oxygen concentrator down here. That oxygen goes in, and we've got a check valve that has a 0.5 psi cracking pressure. So what that does is it forces some of that oxygen through the unit. It comes in here where we tee it off and get a pressure sample, so we can show how much pressure we've got on our supply. And then it also passes through our oxygen sensor, and then back out. We've got a mass flow sensor that gives us our sample flow reading, and that comes back in and then just passes back through where we send it out back and mix it with the process outlet. Anything above that 0.5 psi just goes straight through the check valve. That basically just gives us a differential pressure so that we can force some of it through the sample. You've got isolation valves. If you need to take it offline and do some service on the sensor, you can close these to access the sensing portion without taking the oxygen offline. Oxygen pressure, you can set the high and low. We've got this in what's called window mode. The high pressure, we've got it set for 75 psi, and we don't suggest you adjust that unless it's lower. The 75 psi is the limitation of the mass flow sensor, and the oxygen sensor have a limit of 75 psi. Low pressure can be adjusted. That is in P1L. So you see P1L. Right now I've just got it set for 0.6 psi just because I've got it on the bench here, but that can be adjusted up or down to determine what you want for your minimum pressure. It'll fault anywhere it goes below that pressure, and there's a half psi hysteresis on that on the limits. You can also adjust the that's where you go to the high. P1H is the high pressure. That's when we got fixed at that. I would not go over that because that if you exceed that, you could damage the equipment. But P1L is the low pressure, and that one is adjustable. But we're basically just making sure we've got some pressure on the system. If you drop pressure, it gets below what you need to feed the generator is where you could set off an alarm. But generally the generator is already going to have its minimum pressure alarm on board, so doesn't really need that. But if you want to set a low pressure, you can do it from here. Over here you've got oxygen concentration and your sample flow. I can tweak that here with this. See, on here I've lost pressure because I opened up this little valve here, but normally you'd have this in a loop and it would be at a static pressure, something much higher than that, about 40-50 psi or higher. I'll close this valve and get my pressure back up. Okay, now if I need to adjust any set points here, you hold your finger on this little gear button here, hold it down for a few seconds. Once you're into the setup, here's where you adjust the oxygen concentration set point. Anything below that will fault, and it won't. It'll trigger the interlock, change the colored red of the unit. The sample flow set point is adjusted here. You push up, it changes up by 0.2. When you go down, it goes by 0.1. That's just to let you go through the numbers a little quicker. But a fairly low set point is adequate. You don't need a lot of flow for the sample. We just need to know we've got some flow through there, and it'll generally cap out at about 8 liters a minute anyway, even if you have the outlet wide open, because that's the differential through this check valve. It'll only flow about 8 liters a minute or so. To get out of the screen, if you wait 30 seconds, it'll just exit automatically, or if you hold your finger on this button again, it'll go back out if you hold it for about 1.5 seconds. That's the unit in a nutshell. If we lose gas flow or pressure, or we get low concentration of oxygen, the cabinet will turn red, and it'll trigger a contact that you can send out to another interface panel to shut down a system if necessary, set off an alarm, whatever's necessary for your application. Any questions? Give us a call. Ozone Water Systems, 480-421-2400. Thank you.